On May 5th, 2020, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife reopened some recreational opportunities across the state. To talk more about the latest changes from the department and some guidelines on how to recreate responsibly, we have the Regional Director of the Coastal Washington office, Larry Phillips. Hi there, Larry. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So, how's your work routine changed since the stay-home mandate was implemented?
Yeah, so it's been pretty profound for us at Fish and Wildlife. Consistent with all other businesses and government agencies and folks out there. Our offices are closed. They've been closed now for going on a couple of months. So the business as usual is just completely turned upside down here. We're telecommuting. We're trying to continue to provide our services, which are pretty wide ranging. And in a way that we were pretty all accustomed to. So even this conversation we're having right now is something that's all new to us as an agency. But really, the bottom line is that the most difficult challenge is to continue to provide the services that the industry, the recreational community, commercial fishers, conservation organizations, the shellfish industry, lands. There's not really a whole lot that doesn't touch fish and wildlife in one way or another. The big fallacy for a lot of people is that Fish and Wildlife manage hunting and fishing. Well, we do a lot more than just that. We work with municipalities on urban growth. We work on habitat conservation plans for threatened and endangered species that affect everything from the building industry to government agencies, the federal government on how we operate JBLM. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes right now to try to continue to provide that support. And every day is a learning experience for me as kind of the leader here in the region. And we're doing a good job. We have amazing staff. I think we're getting a clear direction from the governor's office on how and when we can operate. I know that there's some difference of opinion on that, but I think that we're in a really good spot here as we move to these other phases and start reopening slowly. I think we're in a really good spot to do that. So looking forward to those opportunities that are coming up.
Yeah, so on May 5th, the department reopened fishing, hunting, and access to recreational areas. What prompted this decision, and what are some of the protocols in place to ensure the safety of the community?
Yeah, so excuse me. Clearly, we're working hand in hand with our county health officers. That was one of the criteria that we used to reopen. Every one of our communities have different needs and different healthcare capacity to deal with potential outbreaks of this virus. So clearly, what worked for Thurston County might not necessarily work for Pacific County. So coordinating with the county commissioners, with the health officials in those counties, and also with industry in those counties on what it might look like. Now, clearly, the guidance we got from the governor's office was this reopening consistent with the approach for everyone. Really, it doesn't matter whether you had a fishing rod in your hand or a rifle in your hand for hunting. Was the activity going to result in increased exposure, increased risk to those communities? And that was really where we started. And so once we came up with some we still haven't opened some of our fisheries that in my region, in the coastal region, that we anticipate lots of folks participating in and bringing people out to Pacific County, Grays Harbor County, Clallam County. We put those on hold, and they still are on hold. That would be our halibut fishery. That would be some of our salmon fisheries that aren't scheduled to open yet. But that was really the process we went through, and we continue to go through, is to work with the governor's office to make sure the activities that we provide and the services we provide in supporting those outdoor recreation is consistent with the governor's approach. And can you imagine the conversations happening at the governor's office, the different industries that are reaching out and trying to get clarification? So we appreciate that partnership and have had a lot of support from the governor's office in terms of what activities would be consistent with those. So we're continuing to communicate on the local front and the governor, the state of Washington for that advice on how to proceed.
So there are things that are still closed that
There
people
are,
can't
yeah.
access. And so,
So go ahead.
well, what's the plan for when those will be open, and how do people
Yeah.
know what is closed?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, wdfw.wa.gov, and it'll explain to you. But really, it's pretty much business as usual in the state now in terms of which activities are open. But there are some constraints around, and those would be consistent with the governor's, social distancing and your own members of your own household, and don't stay overnight. But that
All right.
information is clearly laid out in the governor's phased approach. So you can either go there, you can look at WDFW news releases that we've recently put out there for folks to better understand kind of what's expected of them. And so that's really the kind of the starting point. We didn't open some of our popular fisheries, particularly on the coast. And in some instances, those were respecting the desires of our tribal partners.
Okay.
So we have tribal reservations on the coast that really that's the only access to those fisheries. So for example, Nia Bay and La Push are both on reservations. Both of those boat ramps and those marinas are located within the tribal Indian reservation. The tribes have been clear with everyone, including WDFW, that they believe the risk to be still pretty substantial, and they want to maintain closure of those facilities. So we haven't opened those marine areas at this point, and we're hoping to, as we go into phase 2, and know more about it and better understand this risk, then we'll be able to make some decisions on some of those types of opportunities.
Does your organization oversee camping on state lands?
We oversee, so ours is a little bit unique in that we typically don't have a formal campgrounds at most of our access points. However, you are allowed to camp on some of our access points, particularly in Eastern Washington. We've got the WDFW manages about 1.2 million, 3 acres of land in the state of Washington. So we do have a substantial number of holdings for the citizens of the state of Washington to recreate and for conservation reasons. And we do allow some camping on those normally. Right now, we still don't have approval. We don't have that as an option. Mm-hmm. But again, it's going to be a county by county basis, we believe. And we've got staff that are involved deeply in that conversation. So we certainly will know more soon, and we can wdfw.wa.gov for any information updates on decisions that we make, and that'll be your best point of contact for the latest.
According to the governor's phases, is camping phase 2, phase 3, phase 4?
I believe it is phase 2, and I believe some private campgrounds are already operating under some specific guidelines. As far as a government agency, and we make sure that we're consistent with state parks. And I believe I want to say we might even be open now. So I want to caution this conversation to make sure we're looking at those websites and looking for that leadership and those information from those posts. But really, what WDFW wanted to do, and we've done, is we've worked closely with state parks and DNR, our sister agencies within the state government family, to make sure that we're consistent in our approach. And we're opening when we feel confident that that's the right thing to do. And again, reaching out to those local county leadership in terms of their health officials and their county commissioners on what's best for the counties.
Well, I went and got a fishing license online, so I know you can do that. Are there other ways to get hunting and fishing licenses, or is the best thing to go to your website to do it through there?
So yeah, it's a matter of convenience. So if you've got a little bit of time, and even if you don't have time, you can go on to wdfw.wa.gov and you can purchase your license that way. And as long as you don't need what's called a catch record card, which would be for your salmon species that we intensively monitor or we have quotas for, require you to record your catch on a card. You can print that off. Really, if you want it in your hand, and it's on paper, so it's tough. Northwest, right? It's going to rain, and they don't last long. But you can go to any one of our vendors that I believe most of them are operating again, at least in some capacity, and you can purchase a license at some of those vendors,
like the sporting goods stores and things like that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I want to say there's hundreds of vendors across the state of Washington that are set up with that kiosk that allow them to sell licenses to anglers, hunters and anglers.
Okay, so the best way to get the latest updated information is to go to your website, which you've said, wdfw.
wa.gov.
Okay, wa.gov.
And if you just do a Google search, if you just do a Google search or a search, just WDFW will pop up there.
Excellent. Okay.
But yeah, maybe just one more piece on that is again, you're going to want to check with local jurisdictions as well. Clearly, WDFW's authority ends at managing natural resources and the actual act of harvesting and occupying or accessing our lands. If there's any other restrictions that are travel advisories or travel restrictions or stay overnight restrictions that might be in place by the county, I encourage folks to look on the county website as well when they're traveling.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go today?
I'm just excited that the sun's shining today, and myself and my family, I'm looking out my window right now at my boat sitting in the driveway with some shrimp pots out in front of it. So, it's not normal. We get it. We understand it's not normal. It's just providing some folks the assurance that they need to be able to understand that tomorrow's going to be okay, and we're going to have some fishing opportunities. And this is the Northwest. A lot of people, they live here because they get out on the water and they get out and hike and they get out and just enjoy the environment. So we're doing all we can to continue to provide those types of opportunities where it's consistent with public safety. And we'll keep everybody updated, but we're excited that most of the activities are open now and encourage people to get out and take part.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Larry, for taking the time to talk with us today.
Not a problem, Robert. Thank you.
To get the latest information from the department or to get a hunting or fishing license, visit their website at wdfw.wa.gov. That's all we have for you today. Tune in next time for more updates. Again, if you have any questions or suggestions for something we should cover, send an email to rkam@tcmedia.org. Stay home, stay updated with Thurston Community Media, and stay safe, Thurston County.